Mommy, this kid's from Providence and he's on TV.
Godzilla is so fire.
Yeah.
Gotta take a shot. Hey, don't be
I still can't get over that set. That is so cool. I feel like I'm on the set of like Full House or something, you know?
Probably what the set looks like.
Yeah.
It's dope. 'Cause we need to go back to that, man. These days, there's way too much CGI in everything.
Right.
It's like the practical effects is like what made it so dope, you know?
Yeah.
Everything is just like that.
And like I always say, that's what made like the initial Spider-Man movie so special. 'Cause they
Exactly.
used real life, like everything.
Yeah.
Nowadays, they do CGI for the mask.
Literally.
Spidey ain't even got a real mask.
Right.
That's crazy.
That's
Right.
crazy.
Especially for the eyes. You know, the eyes of CGI. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah.
How you guys been though?
Pretty good,
We're
man.
good, man.
Pretty
We're
good.
good.
How about you, bro? How's
man, it's been
everything?
a busy
You're
time.
grinding, brother.
Yeah, we're gonna get ready
Hustling.
to talk about that.
Yeah.
No rest. But it's been
Yeah.
good though. I mean, community's coming out. and
Yeah.
It's like very inspiring to see. You know,
Yeah.
when you got young people coming out to knock doors and like volunteer for the first time ever on a campaign, it's like, damn, we're doing that, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Gives
yeah,
people like a reason to like actually care.
yeah.
Which again, I don't blame them for not caring before, you know? It's like,
Mhm.
what level of like hope was there?
Exactly. Exactly. Love that.
Let me just bring this in like a tad bit. I feel like you're gonna turn your head a lot more than.
Oh, that's fair.
Did
I'm
you
a very animated person.
I know, right?
So,
Yeah. I think it's beautiful. So I'm rolling on both ends.
Oh, you started. Okay.
Yeah,
All right.
yeah.
Cool.
I always start earlier than people.
Yeah, we do too.
We like that. Yeah,
love
we
that,
actually like
yeah.
to use some of
Damn,
that.
so you heard my
combo.
critiques of the Spider-Man movies? All right,
We're
Disney, if
totally
you heard
using
that, I am sorry. You know, I think practical effects are better, but if you want to cast me, I will be open to it. Don't worry.
Love it.
Just had to put it out there, you know, just in case.
Right,
Yes, you
right.
know.
Exactly.
All right. Welcome back to another episode of the E&A podcast. I'm your host, Frank.
And I'm your host, Uzi.
And today we got a special guest in the building with us today. We got
The
David
man.
Morales.
What's going on, y'all? Appreciate the invitation. Thank you.
We're
Thank you for
excited to
coming. Yeah.
have you,
Yeah.
man.
Thank you for coming on our platform, man. You're doing some really good stuff. You're really touching the city. And I really just wanted to have you on our platform for people that don't know who you are. You know, I had first encountered who you were at the DR Festival. I was doing interviews and stuff, but like the interview I did with you was cool. It was different. You know, everybody was saying like what they liked about the festival, but you really started touching base on like the city and stuff like that. What got you started to wanting to run for the city of Providence?
Absolutely, my friend. I mean, I often go back to my own lived experience, right? I grew up to a single immigrant mom who had to work a multitude of jobs, did not speak much English, immigrated here from Mexico in the 80s. And it's like the class struggle a lot of us grow up with, right? It's the sense of having to speak a different language at home other than English. It's the struggle of having to watch a working parent work a multitude of jobs. And I remember when I was in high school, I started putting the pieces together and I realized, wow, the minimum wage, this idea that someone could get paid the lowest amount of money per hour is decided by the government. And I quickly realized that the decisions that are made by the government impact the way we live our lives, for better or for worse. And in that moment in time, I thought it was incredibly important that we had more people, community members with lived experience that were at the decision-making table, deciding what kind of laws we'd be investing in, what kind of budget investments would be passing. And so that encouraged me at a very early age as a 16-year-old to see how the system worked, but most importantly, how can I make a difference to be a part of it?
And what was some of that trajectory that got you into politics? Because currently, right now, what is your position in politics and how did you get started? Did you have to go through law school or anything?
So currently I serve as a state representative. I was first elected at the age of 21, which made me the youngest Latino
That is
to
a
ever
crazy-
serve.
Oh, yes, young people and Latino. We love that.
No, exactly, man. And I'll tell you, it wasn't easy. So I initially started my campaign for state representative the winter of 2019. And what that required me to do is to knock a lot of doors. So I didn't have to go to necessarily school for it, right? I believe that lived experience is very important, which is why I often encourage people to get involved in local government and in politics. Because you don't need to have a quote-unquote formal education. What you need to have are thoughts, passions, and ideas. And so I knocked on doors over the course of 10 months telling people that it was important that we raise the state minimum wage towards $15, we invest in affordable housing, and we get more social workers into our schools. And thankfully, the community resonated with that message, because ultimately that's what led to me being able to win that initial election. And since then, I've been reelected twice.
Wow. That's amazing.
Yeah.
That's big, huge. And even, within your age group and everything. Wow, that's huge.
Yeah.
And it's important, man. I mean, I often say is like the more we can get young people involved, the more change we're going to see at a faster rate.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Where did you originate from? Like, did you come from Cali? Are you from California?
Yeah, so my mom immigrated from Mexico in the late 1980s.
Okay.
And we grew up in a very small town called Soledad. So it's a rural community predominantly surrounded by agricultural fields. And the story often was your parents would immigrate from Mexico, work in the fields, send some money back home over to Mexico, while at the same time being able to provide for family in the U.S. And so that's my origination, is growing up in such a household. Unfortunately, my dad struggled with substance use disorder relatively early into my life. So I haven't seen him in over 20 years, right?
Wow.
So I grew up with my mom. She's the one that always supported me alongside my older sister. And ultimately, it was that experience, right, that demonstrated to me, like, just again, why it is so important that we have people who care in government. That way they're looking out for families like mine.
I love that.
Love that. ¿Y cómo es tu español? Yo quiero saber un poquito cómo es el acento que tiene. Yo soy nicaragüense.
Oh, qué gran, amigo.
Yeah,
Sí, entonces yo soy, como dije, mexicano, ¿y tú?
Puertorriqueño.
Okay.
Ahí estamos. Y eso es lo que me encanta
Ahí
de
está
nuestra
el
ciudad,
acento.
de nuestro estado.
Aprobado.
Es que
Green check.
tenemos.
We love that. We
I
love
thought you were going to
that.
call me a no sabo kid for a second, man. Hey, if
No,
you
no,
know,
no.
you know, though.
Right.
No sabos out here. No sabos out here.
Right.
We love that, man. We love that. And what are your plans? Once you get into office, what's some of the highlights of your campaign? What do you want to see happen in Providence?
So my main priority is taking care of the working people that call Providence home by making sure that they can afford to continue living in Providence. The biggest issue in our city, without question, is housing.
I'm glad you said it.
Got too many people getting priced out. It's insane. I was talking to a working mom just a few weeks ago, and she shared with me the story. She lives in Lower South Providence, and over the course of 1 year, her rent went up from $1,400 for a 2-bedroom to now being $2,000.
That is excessive.
It's insane. That's price gouging, right? The fact that her rent went up by over $500 over the course of 1 year is not sustainable, because we know our wages aren't going up at that same rate, right? Our salaries aren't going up at that same pace. And so it's important that we have rules in place to limit how much rent can go up on a given year. So one of my main proposals is to stabilize the cost of rent by being able to say your rent can't go up by more than 4% each and every single year. And that is how we're going to keep a lot of our communities safely housed, is that layer of stability. Because we got way too many families right now that are on the verge of being homeless or are being forced to move out to West Warwick or Woonsocket because it's more affordable there. We should make sure it's affordable in our city. So without question, that's my main priority. But I also want to make sure that when it comes to our schools, for example, that we have better staffing within our schools as it relates to getting more socials workers in there, in addition to more bilingual educators that are able to connect with our students and families.
Yeah.
Absolutely. We have a big bilingual community in this area. Did you have a follow-up with that too? With statistics, with schools?
Yes.
And stuff like that?
I was going to say that the public schools system, how would you help the public school system education get better?
As I said before, it starts with staffing. I think one of the main issues that we have right now in Providence is that we got too many students that aren't receiving the necessary support that they need in and outside of the classroom.
Yeah.
We got a lot of students that are dealing with mental health issues, whether they're going through trauma at home, whether they're going through the challenges of just being a teenager, especially when you think about how much social media they're surrounded by.
Yep.
It's tough to be a kid these days, yo. Like, it's a lot different than it was for us, right? Like, as elder millennials, like on our end, it wasn't as difficult as it is now. And therefore, there is a greater need to have more guidance counselors into schools, culture coordinators, and social workers. And one thing I always emphasize is that we have all the talent we need in our backyard.
Teachers should not be overwhelmed.
Exactly.
You hear the stories all the time of overcrowded classrooms and things getting out of hand. Teachers, like, you see it all the time. They'll put it up on social media talking about how stressful their work environment is. And this is for all age groups, too.
Yeah.
You know,
And that's why we have so many vacancies, and it's not sustainable, especially for our middle schools, our high schools. I mean, the fact that you got a high school like Mount Pleasant, over 1,100 students, but they only got 2 social workers. That's an issue.
What are you proposing as a solution for something like that?
So our solution would be to make sure that we have more city investments going towards our Providence public schools, and specifically that those investments be used for frontline staffing to get more bilingual teachers into the workforce by making sure we get more social workers and guidance counselors. I want to make sure that each and every single additional dollar that we're investing from taxpayers towards our schools is centered around staffing. That has to be the priority. When we better staff our schools, we're going to see better outcomes for our students because they're going to feel more connected, as will their parents.
I'm going to read off some statistics that I have here for the public schools, right? We have the graduation rate. It's at 73 to 74% recently. And then it says the reduction of chronic, kids being absent, 57% of kids being absent.
That's a really big number.
That is.
It's a scary number, right?
That's half.
It's a scary number.
That's half. Also, the state testing, there's only, it says here that 50% of kids get a high score on the state test. So it says like low test proficiency for math, reading, and science. You know, and I think it does come down to staffing. I remember going to Central Falls High School in Central Falls, Rhode Island, and it was really bad. Like Obama, I think, went to the school, or he fired all the staff.
What?
In the school.
What year was this?
This was like in 2011, 2012.
Wow.
And he went to the school because only 10% of the kids in CF High passed the state test. So I do agree with you. I think it does start with staff, you know, and caring more about kids, you know. Definitely. I think the graduation rates should be way higher
Much
than
higher.
what it is now.
And let's think about the students that aren't graduating. More often than not, they are multilingual learners. They are those that may have recently immigrated. They are students whose first language is not English.
Right.
But the reality is, you're not getting the support that they need in the classroom.
Missed opportunities everywhere
And so
because they go into the workforce and they could be amazing.
Exactly. And so, like, let's think about those missed opportunities. A lot of that looks like a student deciding that they no longer want to go to school. So they choose to just simply not attend, which leads to chronic absenteeism, or perhaps they choose to drop out, which then impacts the graduation rate that we have. So I've said it before. I believe that all of the talent that we need to be able to safely staff our schools already exists. We have so many bilingual adults in the city of Providence that if the city were to give them an opportunity and say, we want you to get trained up to be an educator, whether it's a teaching assistant, a guidance counselor, or a teacher, we're going to make sure you're taken care of. Whether you choose to go to Rhode Island College, you go to College Unbound, you go to CCRI, if you go through these programs, we will make sure that you do not have to concern yourself about going into debt. We're going to make sure we subsidize that education with the expectation that you're going to commit to work at Providence Public Schools for several years. And think about it. It's mutually beneficial for everyone. We're giving people an opportunity to sustainable career path, while at the same time making sure our students are going to be taken care of because now they're in a safely staffed classroom where classroom sizes could be just a bit smaller.
I love that. Yeah. What about the taxes in Rhode Island, well, specifically in Providence?
So the last 3 years, we have seen 2 spikes in property taxes. And what that has led to is a lot of working people, especially our immigrant families, feeling the pressure on whether or not they want to continue calling Providence home. It's the pressure of whether or not they can continue to keep up with rising costs. We need to be a lot more thoughtful as a city as to how we raise revenue. Because make no mistake about it, we certainly need additional funding to take care of our roads, because y'all have seen those crazy potholes.
Absolutely.
The conditions of our sidewalks.
That was my follow-up right there.
And of course, the staffing in our schools, right? So all of this requires investment, without question.
Absolutely.
But it's the question that has to be asked. How do we raise that funding? How do we raise the revenue? And I do not believe that it should come off the backs of working people through constant increases to their property taxes. My proposal is one that is multifaceted. I think we need to reform how we raise taxes, how we look at taxes in general. For example, a bodega on Chalkstone Avenue should not be paying the same tax rate as a hotel in downtown Providence that's worth over $15 million. Or the industrial polluters that are poisoning our neighbors in Washington Park. Those are two different types of business models, right?
Yep.
A small bodega versus a large hotel versus an industrial polluter. In my opinion, those should all be separate tax brackets. I think that the large hotel should be paying more. I believe that the industrial polluters should be paying more to our city.
Contribute a little more, okay.
Absolutely, because they can afford to do it. They can absolutely afford to do it. Instead of putting the constant pressure on the bodega that is now deciding whether or not it's worth it to stay in business. Same thing when it comes to homes. We got a lot of working people that live in homes that are worth less than $2 million. They should not find themselves in a position where their taxes are constantly going up. I think there's something to be said around some of the mansions that exist in Providence that are worth over $2 million, because they certainly do exist. I think that's a different tax bracket that could be applied. So for me, it's about having more of a balanced system. And of course, we could also talk about our private colleges. Right now, Brown University, RISD, PC, and JWU are only paying 8% of what they would otherwise pay in property taxes. So in other words, they're getting a 92% discount on their property taxes.
That's crazy.
That sounds like a sweet deal to me, right?
Yeah.
But it's unfair to us because each and every single time they grow, they're taking more money away from the tax base, yet they're not paying a dime more. My goal is to revisit our agreement with the private universities, work with the community, and demand more. Demand that they contribute more specifically to our schools, to our roads, because those are the services that we need to fund. But again, it should not be coming off the backs of working people only.
Right.
Love that.
Why do you think a lot of young people are following your movement right now?
Because we keep it real, y'all. The rent's too damn high, right? We have a solution for that. I think folks want to be able to see like direct solutions to some of the issues that quite honestly are not a secret. We know that it's getting expensive in our city.
Right.
We know that there's flooding happening on Branch Avenue and Valley Street and Onlyville each and every single time it rains. We got solutions to address that. And I think it's time that we have a level of local governance that responds to those needs. And thankfully, a lot of young people, as they watch our videos, as they see our website content, they're agreeing with what we have to say, which is very exciting.
Yeah. I love that. I love that. Why should people vote for David Morales?
Because I am going to make sure as mayor that I use every tool in city government to make life more affordable for working people, for families, anyone who wants to call Providence home. And especially during the times that we're living in right now, where there's so much fear and uncertainty, especially within our immigrant community, we need to know that there is going to be leadership at the local level that is going to take care of them.
Right.
And I have never backed away from a fight to be able to say that in Providence, immigrants are welcome. We do not welcome ICE in our community.
I was just going to follow up with that.
We're going to stand up. We're going to stand up and make that very clear. We're going to have a community task force with neighborhood leaders, in addition to community groups, that are going to be there to start thinking about ways that we can have rapid responses to protect our neighbors, while at the same time making sure that if any community member is impacted, that their family is going to be taken care of. Because we're going to make sure we work with them to get access to legal services and human services. Because that's what a lot of folks are just looking for.
Yep.
Is stability and protection. And I am prepared to work as hard as possible in order to make that a reality.
Love that. Got my vote, brother.
No, I appreciate that, man.
What are let's talk a little bit about the David Morales haters. Who are some of the opponents that you're facing at the moment, and what are some things that they're throwing at you during this campaign?
Absolutely. I mean, I would certainly say without question, we have some greedy property management companies that are upset that we're highlighting the practices that they're putting forward in our community. A few weeks ago, when I first announced my campaign, one of the first policy initiatives I shared was the fact that we would start charging as a city large transaction fees anytime a for-profit corporation wants to come in and buy out a home in our neighborhoods. I mean, if y'all take a look at the Elmhurst neighborhood in Providence or Wanskuck, you'll notice that they're being dominated by businesses like Strive and 02908. What's happening there is a lot of humans are no longer owning homes in that neighborhood. Instead, it is companies that own the homes. And their priority is profit, which means that they're generally jacking up the rent in a way that now impacts the average rent all across the city.
Mm.
And so, obviously, as I propose a policy to try to stop that practice, folks are going to be hating in response. There's going to be a layer of concern that is going to be shared because I'm going to cut into their business profits. But again, I am not here to serve the industrial polluters that are poisoning our neighbors in Washington Park. I'm not here to serve the corporations that want to maximize profit through housing. I'm here to serve our neighbors.
Right.
Love it.
Do you plan on bringing any new partnerships to the city? Any industries to the city?
Absolutely.
Providence?
I think there's so much potential. I mean, we're the creative capital, y'all. We are the creative capital, and we have so many creative entrepreneurs that want to do more in our city. They just need to be given the opportunity.
Right.
Access to capital, access to brick and mortar. I'll tell y'all right now, I get very frustrated seeing the amount of vacant commercial storefronts in downtown Providence. It's sad to see, right? You're walking around downtown and you see a bunch of for lease signs. We need to incentivize those property owners to be able to offer affordable rents to creative artists and entrepreneurs. We could have corridors of small businesses that are thriving. I think about Chalkstone Avenue. I think about Smith Street. I think about Broad Street.
La Broa.
Right.
As a city, we can say, we're going to close down the streets. We're going to have outdoor dining.
Yep.
Right? Like, we're going to have facilitations through the city to have programs that encourage people to go outside, to shop at their local small businesses, and most importantly, connect with their neighbors. And so that's what I get really excited about when I start thinking about partnerships, is how do we partner with our local artists to be able to have more public art or to have neighborhood concerts at our local parks? Because a lot of what government can do is help spread joy if it's done the right way. If we, as a city, are committed to doing that, we'll make it easier for restaurants to offer outdoor dining. We'll make it easier for folks to have access to art galleries, to libraries, without making it such a hassle. And so one of my main commitments is to work directly with community partners, to work with local artists, to work with entrepreneurs, to help bring their dreams into reality with the expectation that's going to serve our community.
Yeah, I was talking to this with somebody about the PVD Fest. That's like a big community thing for Providence, you know. And I think at one point they were going to shut that down for a little bit, you know. How important is it for you to have a community that responds back to you, the things that you are offering, and the options that you are giving to them? You know, how do you feel about the response that they're giving back to you?
Community feedback is so important. In my 5 years as a state representative, one of the proudest things I've done is host a monthly community meeting. Every month at Mount Pleasant Library, I get
shows
together.
that you care.
Absolutely,
you know?
But it's also my job.
Right.
My job as a government official is to keep everyone updated as to what's happening at the State House, what's happening in local or federal government, what are the resources I could help extend. And so for me, community feedback is the most important piece of this job. And I'm committed as mayor to having regular community meetings. And don't get me wrong, it's not always going to be positive.
Right.
Folks are going to share their frustrations, whether it's the cracked sidewalk in front of their home that has been on the wait list for over 5 years, whether it's their concern about why their child's in a crowded classroom. But I need to be able to hear it, because it is my job to be responsive. It is my job to work with a team, whether it's members of the city council, whether it's members of our administration, but most importantly with community members that are impacted, to see how can we develop solutions so this doesn't continue to happen.
Right. I love that. What's your take about the violence that happens in Providence?
I think more often than not, what we need more of is opportunities and programs specifically for young people, programming that goes beyond the realms of just what you get at school. Right? I think a lot of our young people are seeking third spaces. When I say third spaces, I'm talking about like open recreation centers. I'm talking community programming through, again, being able to have neighborhood concerts. I think a lot of that can go a very long way to help have prevention around violence, but also, quite frankly, it's also this idea of how do we address systemic poverty? How do we address poverty, but also how do we address the issues of unaddressed mental health needs? I think we've got a lot of folks in our communities that unfortunately haven't been extended the opportunity to be able to go to therapy or to be able to have access.
Or that they even know that it's a
that it's a
an
resource,
available
that it
resource,
exists.
yeah.
Exactly. Don't get me wrong. Like, there's a stigma around mental health. I know things have gotten better over the years, but there still is. I think within certain communities, you'll have certain neighbors that are like, "No, I don't need that.
Right.
Nomás es para los locos," whatever the saying is, right? And I think there's an opportunity for the city to be able to extend more resources in the form of making sure that people are getting the help that they need.
Right.
I mean, we see it all the time. I think folks more often than not say that they feel unsafe in Providence because they see a homeless person. I mean, it certainly happened in my community. On Chalkstone Avenue, we've had an increase around the amount of unhoused folks. And I've had neighbors call me and say, I feel unsafe. And so in response, I think what we need to be ready to do as a city is to have case managers, social workers prepared to go on site and be able to help those in need.
Right.
Because more often than not, again, they're dealing with unaddressed mental health needs.
Right.
They're dealing with substance use disorder or alcoholism. And I think that plays a role towards, again, the growth that we're seeing around homelessness, in addition to violence as well.
Where would you like to see Providence in 10 years?
Ooh, my goal for our city is that we have an activated corridor of commercial spaces all across the city. So this goes back to what I was saying. When we think about Broadway, when we think about Chalkstone Avenue, Douglas Avenue, Broad Street, Cranston Street, downtown, that they are activated with entrepreneurs that are proud to call Providence home, that they themselves are the ones helping roll our economy forward because
Right.
they're hiring locally. While at the same time, we have fully staffed schools. Schools that have demonstrated that regardless of which zip code or neighborhood you live in, parents could feel reassured that wherever they send their child's going to get the academic and social and emotional support that they need to be successful. And on the housing front, that we have more mixed income housing all across the city. That we're accommodating the needs for the 5,000 plus people that are on the waiting list for the Providence Housing Authority, all the way to a working professional that just got out of college, is making 70 grand a year, but is having a hard time trying to figure out where they're going to live.
Right.
We can have these opportunities come to life, and it can happen all throughout the city. Because I want to make sure that all the investments aren't just going to downtown, for example. We need to make sure that we're showing some love to Onlyville, that we're getting investments going in Onlyville Square, or that we're looking towards Plainfield Street and Silver Lake, that we're making the investments necessary all across the board. That way every neighborhood feels like they're fully invested in.
I love that. I love that.
Love it.
I think you have your mind and your heart in the right position, to set Providence up for success. We ask our guests this on every episode. What do you want to be remembered for? What does David Morales want to be remembered for?
As someone who cares and shows up. I always make a very conscientious effort if I get invited to an event, whether, again, it's something along the lines of an award ceremony, a person's graduation happening in their backyard, whatever the occasion may be, I always try to show up because I think it's important to have a presence. And it's not always about talking business, right? It's not always about talking politics. Just the fact that one cares enough to be able to show up, to be able to get to know someone's family, to get to know their friends and colleagues, etc. Like, to me, it's very important that we're connected as a community, and a lot of that starts with, is my neighbor showing up for me?
I love that. What do you think? Why do you think the prices went up after COVID happened in the city? Not just in the city, but everywhere, but specifically in Providence. Why do you think it went up?
Well, again, I think nationally, it's the result of corporate greed. I think nationally what we saw were opportunities where corporations were able to take advantage of the fact that some folks got a stimulus check, for example, and were able to jack up prices. I think locally, in terms of what we're seeing in regards to housing, for example, what ended up happening is you had a lot of folks moving in from New York City and Boston that could afford to pay more in rent. They could no longer call New York City or Boston home because of how expensive it got there. So they came over to Providence, and naturally, as a result of that, the average price of rent just went up. And then what has happened is you have working class communities in particular that are seeing, rents went up there, I can also jack up rent. And so what has happened is a situation where, because we have no rules or regulations around how much rent can increase, you've had certain bad actors, usually in the form of property management companies, usually in the form of corporations that own homes, saying we're going to maximize profits by raising rent as much as possible. And that has led to us watching Providence become the least affordable city in America for renters. And what I mean when I say that is that in Providence, we have the largest gap between the average salary and the average rent. The average rent right now in Providence for a 2-bedroom is $2,200.
That's crazy.
The average household income, the average salary in Providence is closer to $64,000. So there is a very large gap that exists in between. And unfortunately, it's a gap that continues to grow and will continue to grow unless it is addressed. And our current mayor is failing to do that. And that is one of the main reasons I entered this race, is because we need to make sure that there is leadership that's going to look out for the working people and their needs, not the needs of those that want to maximize profit at our expense.
How long has Smiley been in that position for?
It's been 3 years now.
3 years now. 3 years now. Yeah. Wow.
It's been nuts. These 3 years, I don't know. I feel like Providence has changed over the couple of years, you know. When you think of Providence, what do you think about? Besides, I know it's artful, there's talent, right? But when PVD comes into your mind, what is it that you think about the most? Like, what's the first thing that clicks into your mind?
Cultura. Culture, yo.
Yeah.
Just the fact that Providence is a city of neighborhoods. And every neighborhood, every barrio is a little different. You could be in Mount Pleasant one moment.
Yeah.
You make you drive down to Federal Hill.
Right.
All down Atwells Avenue, right?
Yeah, we literally have Italians, Dominicans, Puerto Ricans, Mexicans.
Everything Central American.
Literally.
Got a Colombian festival.
And that's the beauty of it, right? Is we're everywhere across the city.
Cape Verdeans.
But some parts of the city have a little more seasoning in terms of a specific ethnic group or a specific community, right?
Right.
And that's the beauty of our city, is the fact that you can end up across so many different cultures just by being in one neighborhood to the next. And again, the fact that one could take the RIPTA bus and find themselves going from Mount Pleasant all the way back to Federal Hill, making their way back to downtown. So to me, the beauty of Providence is the culture that exists. That can't be defined by one. That's what makes that so special, is that we're not defined by one culture. We're so many cultures combined together.
Right. That's a huge point. That's a huge point. That's what makes the city, really. Every time like we have festivals, you see everybody come together, all the different cultures, and it's beautiful. I love seeing it. I love Providence. You know, he's originally from Florida, but like since he's been here, he fell in love with Providence, bro.
Yeah, love it. Oh my gosh, so diverse. We're musicians, and we had the opportunity to play for a lot of people in this area.
Yeah.
Different bands, different artists, different singers, in the general New England area. And one thing I noticed about Providence is the art scene here is so culture. You know what I mean? You got the rappers, you got the Latinos, you got the salseros and everything, and everybody collaborates, you know, in this area. And I really like that.
And we need more spaces for the collaboration to happen, though, right?
Yeah.
That's one of the issues. We don't have enough music venues for the amount of talent that we have.
Right.
I love being able to go to Fett Music Hall and see one of my friends perform.
Oh, yeah.
So damn special.
Fat,
Right? And then we got other spaces that are now popping up, like the Public Gallery, that's not too far from Fed as well. But then you have other spaces that unfortunately have like closed down over time, like Dusk. And I think there's something to be said as to how we facilitate more, whether it's DIY spaces, but generally third spaces in music venues, that local artists can actively be performing their craft, can have access to spaces to be able to practice and collaborate with others. And I just don't think there's enough. Thankfully, our artists are creative and they'll make it work. I mean, y'all know this. Y'all are examples. But it shouldn't be so difficult. And it shouldn't require you to come outside of the city in order to find it as well.
Now, do you have a plan for the whole ICE thing that's happening in Providence?
Absolutely. I think for me, without question, the priority is transparency and communication. More often than not, anytime ICE is detected in Providence, we find out about it via Facebook Live.
Right.
We find out about it because a community member, thankfully, was able to grab some footage and put it out for all of us to see. That's not the way we should be communicating official ICE sightings. As mayor, I'm committed to having press conferences to be very direct with the community and truthful about what we know. Whether a community member was targeted, whether we can confirm on whether or not they were detained, and whether or not they are in deportation proceedings. Thereafter, we need to have plans in place to support any impacted community member's family, we need to make sure that they are taken care of, whether that is through legal services or human services. At the same time, we need to make sure all of our principals, all of our teachers, anyone who works in a school is trained in terms of how to respond if ICE is within a school. The same goes for our libraries. The same goes for any public spaces. All public employees should be trained and should know how to respond if there are detections of ICE. We need to stand together as a community, and there needs to be leadership that communicates that. And for me, the largest part about keeping our community safe starts with communication. That way we are able to be very clear as to what we know and what we don't know, but most importantly, what resources are going to exist in order to support one another. Because it's a scary time right now, y'all. It's such a scary time.
Can you touch quickly on the incident that happened? I think it was earlier today that the ICE agent vehicle got into a car accident.
Yeah, so I'll preface with saying this again. We know that ICE is in Providence. Just this last month, we've already had several detainments happen on Cranston Street, in downtown, in Onlyville, and none of that ever gets reported on. What happened this afternoon was the result of more recklessness from ICE. An ICE vehicle was on Chalkstone Avenue, right near Nathaniel Green Middle School. They were speeding. They ran a red light, collided into a car, and knocked down a light pole. Again, recklessness in every way, shape, or form. Not only are they terrorizing our communities by kidnapping our neighbors, especially because a lot of these ICE agents are masked up, cannot be identified. They're driving unmarked vehicles. And then to the result of what happened today. They knocked down a whole light pole. I hope there's an expectation as to how the Department of Homeland Security is going to pay for that.
Yeah. Wow. That's insane.
As to how insurance is going to be covered for that car that was damaged. But all that to say is ICE is having a chilling presence in Providence. And I believe that our mayor is failing to meet the moment. He is failing to make sure our communities feel protected and seen. And that can't continue.
I love that.
And so when that happened, I pulled up, though, as you saw. You saw the video. So as soon as I found out that that had happened, I drove over almost immediately. And at that point, the ICE vehicle had taken off. But it's not my first time having to have somewhat of an encounter with ICE. Back in mid-June, there were a series of unmarked vehicles right across the street from Nathaniel Green Middle School, very close to where this accident happened. It was 7:30 in the morning, and I got a call from a neighbor who was driving to work who shared with me that there were 4 unmarked vehicles parked across the street. And this was all happening during student drop-off time.
Wow.
So
Early in the morning.
Right in the morning.
Wow.
And so I drove right over and I confronted what was a U.S. Marshal. And I told them to leave the premises because they had no business being in unmarked vehicles, wearing masks, in front of school children.
That is insane.
And again, this is happening in our communities. What we are watching in terms of ICE terrorizing neighborhoods isn't just something that's happening in California. It isn't just something happening in a border town near Texas or Arizona. It's happening right here in Providence.
That's crazy.
That's sad.
I had no idea that happened.
Yeah, I didn't know how like crazy it's getting and how reckless it's getting. Like to it's a scary time.
No boundaries, no limits, no restrictions. It's just like, wow.
Yeah.
But let me pivot a little bit. Let's talk a little bit about some of the support that you've been getting. What have you experienced ever since you announced? Because you announced 4 weeks. Was it 4 weeks ago?
That is correct.
That you were running for mayor. What kind of new support? What kind of new demographic groups have you seen?
Over the last 4 weeks, I've just been so inspired to watch the amount of support that we've been able to build, and all of it's been organic and grassroots. Since our announcement, over 500 community members have signed up to volunteer with us. As of this past weekend, we have knocked on over 2,500 doors. And neighbors are excited by our message to deliver a Providence for all. They're excited to hear that we have a plan to stabilize the cost of rent, that we're prioritizing caring for our immigrant neighbors. And that's a vision that we're going to keep building on over this next year. Of course, we have an uphill battle because we are competing with a lot of money. Now, I've always been proud to have never taken a dime from any corporate PACs. You will not find me taking money from Rhode Island Energy, for example. You will not find me taking money from health insurance companies, because my priority has always been to serve el pueblo, to serve the working people in our communities.
I was going to highlight that real quick too, because I think I heard before coming in today, I heard Smiley has maybe like $1 million towards his campaign, and you have something in the ballpark of about what, 60?
A little more than that now that we've
How is
announced.
it?
So again, between the time that we've announced, I'm very proud to similarly share that we have raised over $50,000 from working people in just 4 weeks. Working people have said, we want this type of leadership in our city, and they're willing to volunteer their time, but to also donate and support us financially.
People want change. That's why people want to see change,
and they believe in you.
Then it's special, you know, because when we have a volunteer kickoff event and we're getting ready to knock on doors, one of the questions we always ask is, raise your hand if this is your first time ever volunteering on a campaign, ever knocking on a door. And the amount of hands that goes up is so special to see. And it just further demonstrates that people do want to see change in our community.
Right.
And that these ideas that we have, these values that we share, are popular. People believe that no one in our communities should be finding themselves priced out. And so that's what makes me very excited about the next several months, is the fact that we're going to keep building out this grassroots momentum. And while it comes with its challenges, what gives me the reassurance is that we have support from community.
Absolutely.
Love that.
Absolutely.
What are some hobbies that you love doing? Besides, you know, being a state representative, what are some hobbies that you enjoy doing on your personal time?
So I don't know if y'all knew this, but outside of the suit, I wear a slinglet, and I perform as a professional wrestler.
What?
Oh, I saw a picture.
Man, I'm a 3-time RWA hype champion.
Dang.
So
Let's go.
I grew up a really big professional wrestling fan.
Okay.
And it is certainly something I never, quote unquote, grew out of. I grew up watching Rey Mysterio. I grew up watching SmackDown. And it is something that I have now been able to live out in terms of a dream. The last 3 years, I've competed as a professional wrestler with the Renegade Wrestling Alliance, which is a local professional wrestling organization in Rhode Island. And it's been a ton of fun. And I love being able to train ahead of time for the matches. Again, going to the gym, making sure I'm ready to go. I have decent conditioning. That way, by the time I hit the ropes, we're good to go.
Right.
And so that is something I've had a lot of fun with over the years. I had a semi-retirement match a few weeks ago. I'm going to say this in a sentence, right?
Yeah.
It's going to sound wild. I, David Morales, as a state representative, competing as a professional wrestler, got stone cold stunned by a priest of a local church. And he won the championship from me.
Okay.
That's the beauty of professional wrestling, right? So I competed against Father Joe. Big shout out to Father Joe and Our Lady of the Holy Rosary. But I competed up against him, and, you know, with the power of God, you know, he took the stone cold stunner, connected, 1, 2, 3, it was over, you know. But that's like one of my hobbies, right? Watching professional wrestling, but also having the opportunity to compete as a professional wrestler as well.
Okay. How long have you been doing that, the wrestling?
About 3 to 4 years
3
now.
or 4 years?
Yeah.
Okay. Professionally?
Yes.
Okay. Did you do it before, like as an amateur or just like for fun?
Yes, I did amateur wrestling in high school. I was not very good.
Okay.
But thankfully, you know, professional wrestling is more of my style, right? Because it comes with the theatrics, it comes with forms of athleticism, humor, everything all bundled up.
Right.
Okay.
And I think it's a beautiful work of art. So something I've had a lot of fun with.
Maybe we should come out to one of his matches.
Hell yeah.
Hey, when I come out of retirement, y'all should certainly be there. Absolutely.
yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
What are some notable local businesses that you like? Where do you eat? You know, where do you get your cubano sandwich? Where do you get your café con leche? Where do you?
Woo! All right. Well, café con leche. I gotta say, La Arterza Bakery on Academy Avenue.
Okay.
Absolutely delicious. Pan dulce, conchas that you cannot go wrong with. Absolutely delicious. Las Delicias on Atwells is also very delicious as well. Again, those two are like my go-to spots when I'm in need for some pan dulce, when I need some of that comfort food. And then just generally, again, I know I've referenced it several times. I love Chalkstone Avenue. You know, I live in between Academy and Chalkstone, so I spend a lot of time going down to Rico Pollo to munch on some delicious empanadas that are still $1 each. You know, empanada inflation's a real thing.
Thank
y'all.
God, yeah, you're right.
They're still $1, bro. They're still $1, thankfully. But I love Machu Picchu too for some Peruvian food.
Oh,
Machu Picchu is
I love
really
Machu
good.
Picchu.
Yeah.
Didn't you
And
put,
it's-
you put me on?
Yeah.
to that.
Machu
Low-key
Picchu's
slept
really
on
good.
though.
Yeah,
You know, it's
absolutely.
wild. Low-key slept on, but it's
Absolutely.
delicious. And so
Yeah.
any opportunity I ever have to talk about Machu Picchu too, I will always make a reference to them because again,
Shout out.
absolutely delicious. And then there's some nice spots that are like newer. I don't know if y'all been to Providence Noodle Bar in downtown.
I've heard of it. I've never been, but I've
Absolutely
heard of it.
delicious ramen.
Yeah.
And I love the fact that they're open till midnight.
Mm.
You know, 'cause you can't find too many places serving food going into midnight in downtown, right? And they meet the expectation there, and they're absolutely delicious. And of course, gotta give a big shout out to the OG one time, but Baba's New York system in Smith Street to get some of those wieners all the way.
Yeah.
I will share they are closing at the end of the
Yes,
month, which
I
is
saw.
really, really
Wow.
sad. But
I saw.
you know, they were my go-to as well, right? Because I was able to get 2 wieners all the way. Boom, be ready to go, and I had lunch.
Right.
Especially because it's hard to find lunch under $10, right?
Yeah,
Depending on where you be
exactly.
going.
Exactly.
Right. They have the best wieners, dude. They had the meat sauce on it. Oh, it's just delicious. It was delicious. When I saw that, it was sad. Which place is that that's shutting down? Like what area? Is it like the
It's the one on
Hartford?
Smith Street.
Smith Street. Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
so they've been around for 99 years.
Wow.
And it's tough, yo, right?
Wow.
That's why we were talking about it earlier. Like, even when I think about small businesses, a lot of the difficulties that some of them have is keeping up with property taxes. Because we have to keep this in mind. When you have a commercial lease, it is usually written into the lease that any increase in property taxes will be passed on to you as a tenant. So it's written differently than a residential lease for the purposes of housing. So our small businesses feel it directly because it is literally written into their contract that if there's any adjustment to the property tax rate, it's going to impact what their rent looks like. On top of general increases as relates to like inflation, right? So now they're having to have a multitude of expenses adding up, and it becomes difficult. I mean, utilities as well, right? We've seen the price of gas and electricity continue to skyrocket. So I believe it is our responsibility as a government to make sure that our small businesses are being taken care of. That we don't have cases like a cherished neighborhood restaurant like Baba is being forced to close because
Right.
it's becoming too hard to meet ends meet.
Right. Right.
That's difficult. That's hard to watch.
Yeah.
We
Especially.
want the local guy to win.
Right.
you know?
Especially if you've been around for 99 years.
You're basically a part of the community.
Yeah.
You're a staple in the
for
community.
Sure. For sure. That's sad. Well, when is election day?
So it would be September 8th of 2026.
You got a whole year. You know, keep grinding, David. We're loving what we're seeing. We're loving what we're hearing. You know, I hope that our audience is blessed by this interview. They get to see another side of you. They get to see the more details of what you're trying to do in the city, what you're about, and we're rooting for you, man.
We want to see you win.
Yeah,
I
brother.
appreciate it, gents. Thank you
We
both.
appreciate you coming on our platform, taking the time. You know, like I said in the beginning in the interview, that I met you at DR Fest, and very vibrant, very outgoing person, and I loved everything that you had to say. The questions that you asked me, because I did an interview for you, and then you did an interview on me.
Yes, we did.
We swapped, so it was like it was dope. I love that. Continue to do what you're doing, man. Keep grinding. You know.
No, that's what it means a ton,
Absolutely.
guys. Thank you both so much. And similarly to the audience that's watching now, if you all have any ideas, please feel free to comment. Feel free to reach out to me directly. I'm on all social media platforms at David Morales PVD. I'd love to hear your ideas because that's how we're going to be able to bring solutions to the issues most important to us, the working people of Providence.
Right.
Absolutely.
Love it. PVD in the building, baby. Let's go.
Let's go.
Thank you for watching for another episode of the ENA podcast. We out.
We out.
Está peligroso. Si mañana muero, yo espero que nunca olviden mi rostro y pongan un tema mío el día que traigan a Otto. En la caja la bandera azul clarito y que recuerden que siempre fui yo, siempre fui Benito. Métele